Let's talk about sensory supports and strategies and some creative ways to approach both. Welcome to the Special Education Inner Circle podcast. I'm your host, Catherine Witcher, and I'm so excited to have Calm Strips back on for this episode.
Hi.
So excited. So welcome.
Thank you. How are you?
All right, so let's do this. and I have notes in front of me because I'm like, we love to talk about all the things. Like we want to talk about all the things when it comes to sensory and supports and strategies and all that. But before we dive in, let's make sure that our listeners have an idea of who you guys are and what you do. So go ahead, tell us the story.
Oh, yeah.
All right, hello. I'm Michael Malkin. I'm the inventor of Calm Strips and the founder of the company Calm Strips. I started it because I was someone who was a sensory seeker and needed a tool that was similar to Calm Strips, but such a thing did not exist. So I decided to make it. I actually started by using like blue carpenter's tape on my finger because I found that kind of sense calming for me when I would be super busy working at a retail store, and I found when it got really busy that would kind of overwhelm my senses. And so finding a sensory tool that you can have with you all the time, that's discreet and you can always have it with you, was something that was kind of the beginning of Calm Strips. And I worked for about a year and a half on developing the product and testing prototypes and all that fun stuff. And then we launched to customers in April 2020. And then just a short couple months after that, that's when Lucy joined the story. So
yeah, Michael and I worked together in retail, and at the time I had left work. I was busy raising my 5 children, and he called me and he said, "Hey, do you want to come just help me for a few days?" And I said, "Sure, I'll help you for a few days, no problem." By the end of the week, I was full time, and it's really funny because I would bring these home like for my kids to feel, and they're like, "These are amazing. Can I get some more?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." But yeah, and then the journey has been just over 3 years now, and it's really exciting to see just how it's evolved and where it's going to go.
Yeah, so I feel like let's talk about this idea of strategies and supports together, because sensory has become a buzzword. Or go get a fidget, go just pick something up and it's the fix, right? Like I just need to get this fix. The more tools I buy, the more adaptive seating that I have, or sensory seeking, and those. It's not always just about the tool. There has to be some strategies behind that. And I think, Michael, you found that. You're like, I need this strategy because I'm a sensory seeker. I need a specific strategy that works for me. And that what I've seen in the last couple of years, as you guys have evolved, is that you went from almost looking like a tool, right? Like, oh, I'll just pick up a bunch of Calm Strips and we'll just, put them on the students' desks, or we'll just put them on the back of the phone, to now you've integrated some strategies. Tell us about some of the strategies.
Yeah, I think that, I think it's good. First, just to come out of your first comment, I think it's great that there's like a breadth of tools available. Like, I think it's, because different things are going to work better for different people in different situations. And so, I'm never one who'll say like, Calm Strips are the perfect solution for every single person who's, you know what I mean? I think it's important that there's a lot of different things out there, because different things are going to work well for different people. And I'm glad that we're able to put kind of Calm Strips out there as an option. And I think what you talked about is like the strategies is, when we first put out Calm Strips, it was really just about kind of the texture. So like the textured surface of it, that it's a sticker, and that the designs were originally intended. We've kind of branched a little bit beyond this now, but they're supposed to be like calming experiences in nature or beyond. So like night sky. So like when you look up at the night sky, that's a calming experience, or a rainbow, because when you see a rainbow in the sky, it's kind of a calming experience. And we've always kind of tried and kept that as like a guiding star for like the designs, but we've kind of branched a little bit beyond that. We've had UFOs and stuff. We try to keep it to that, but we do go a bit far afield. But but recently, we had the idea of like, what if we kind of combined the texture and the stickiness and all that kind of stuff from Calm Strips, and we combined it with like strategies. So like box breathing, lazy 8 breathing, the 5 senses method of calming down. What if we put those two together? And I think when we initially launched it, we're like, this is just gonna be another design, like people are gonna dig it. And the first one we came out with was called Just Breathe, which is kind of a lazy 8 breathing design. And I think we sold out in like a few days. And usually we had enough that should have lasted us a few weeks. And like for a while, we just couldn't keep that one in stock. And so I was like, eureka, we've hit on something that people are really digging. And so we've been really kind of working on branching that out and making more things that are not just like a textured sensory sticker, although they are, but that also integrates the strategies themselves directly onto the product.
Yeah, well, I would say, so we've done trade shows, and Michael does too, a lot of shows in the area, or events rather, not just shows. But when you explain to somebody who's never seen Calm Strips before as a tool, you're like, you just touch it, and they're like, you just touch it. So it's really nice to have kind of the intention already set for you, right? So you have Calm Strips, now the intention is set. This is where I'm going to go to calm my mind, to breathe, to just have a moment to myself. And I personally use that, like I'll start that, I'll set my intention in the morning and use it as a touchstone throughout the day, it's a lot easier to explain to somebody when you have that in front of you to say, look, you just got to breathe. And to be honest with you, I know we don't do it enough as a society, is just taking those moments to breathe. So to be reminded is really nice.
And I think
I turned off my watch that says just breathe, right? Like it says like on my Apple, I'm like, oh, that's annoying. And then when you think about it, I'm like, that's annoying. It's annoying that it's told me to so I'm like looking at, I've got my mug in front of me here, right? I'm like, oh, I'm going to have to get some breathing ones because then you don't turn it off. It's sitting there in front of me. And I'm like, I could do that. I need to do more box breathing. I need to just, sometimes just transitioning from one activity to another. It's like, take a breath. And we say that in a flippant way, but it does have such a strategy that can be used at school, that can be used on the go, that can be used in the car, that can be used for adults and kids. So I just love that this applies. It's not just for our neurodiverse learners. It's not just for our sensory seekers. It's because we are literally forgetting to breathe in our society. And then when we get tools like the tech tool, right? High tech, got my Apple Watch, I turn it off.
So I will say to that point, if you're in the middle of a conversation, so if we're doing this right now and my Apple Watch, which I don't have on, told me to breathe, I'd be like, I can't right now. I'm busy. But if I have it on my phone or my coffee mug or, whatever, I then am able to choose when I get to take this moment and breathe. But it is a constant reminder that, you need a moment.
Yeah. And I think it's one of those things as well where I think it's also a good accessory for people who are looking to practice mindfulness. I think we're seeing more and more, I think, in the mainstream, the Calm app, which we're not associated with, although we share the word Calm in our name, they have ads with LeBron James on it. So I think that idea is getting more and more out there into the mainstream about taking a moment and being more mindful and breathing. But I think for me, I know when I first started trying to take those moments, I just can't sit still.
Right.
I just don't have to get to just sit still for 10 minutes. But I find when I was first testing the product, if I sat down and did a 10-minute meditation and I kind of keep my finger on my phone with my Calm Strip on it, it just kind of helped me to be able to get that restless energy out, so I can actually take those 10 minutes to do a guided meditation. So I think a lot of times it's and it's a good reminder. I think just having a visual that's not linked to something digital, just having that thing in your environment that you see, I think it does make a huge difference for a lot of people. And I think it can be super helpful just to remind you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I'm gonna flip the conversation a little bit. I want everybody to know you guys have a connection to the special education world, right? You guys get it. You get the world. Do you mind sharing a little bit about what your connection is? So we have special education parents and teachers who are listening, and you're not just another company who, you saw a problem, you developed a solution, but you're in our world, right?
Yeah. So I'll start. So the company's about 3 years old. My oldest child is now in 11th grade. Sorry, I had a moment there. When she was in 2nd grade. I mean, honestly, since kindergarten, she was getting bad reports from her teacher on behavior. And I was like, this is not my child. Like, I know she's, as some people would say, lively or spirited. However, she's a good kid, right? She's got a good heart. And it took up until her second grade teacher was like, oh, I fully know what this is because I also am ADHD. And I was like, oh, cool. I took her, we got, a diagnosis, and a few years later, my son went in and we found out he's on the spectrum. He's also ADHD. And then it turns out my oldest daughter, who originally we just thought had ADHD, turns out she's also on the spectrum. And I was like, all these dots make so much sense when you connect them, right? So she specifically is a texture seeker. She crochets a lot. Like anything she can do with her hands, she's constantly doing, which is amazing. But then I also have, like I said, I have 5 kids. So, I mean, pick one, right? I also have 2 kids that have speech issues. One of whom is, I don't want to say severely delayed, but he just turned 8 years old. And still I'm like, what are you saying sometimes, right? So, I mean, yeah, I've been going to IEP meetings now for 9 years. And they're not always fun, but I have learned, just to come with what I need and to be an advocate for my children. And, we'll make it happen. We'll make it work.
Yeah.
And I have 2 sons, one who just finished 5th grade, and he is, he has ADHD. And my younger son, Miles, who just turned 7, he's about to start 2nd grade. He is on the autism spectrum. He's autistic. He's verbal, but it's very echolalic. Like he'll repeat things that he hears. My older son has never been on an IEP, but my other son, we have had many IEP meetings, and like Lucy said, they're not always suicide. But I will say that we found a local person, I won't give her name out because I don't have permission to clear, but who's like an advocate, like basically goes with us to the IEP meetings and makes sure that we're not that we have the support we need and that we're not being in Virginia we say okey doked, that we're not being led astray, and so I think so it's definitely something. Lucy and I both have a good deal of experience, I think, with IEPs and IEP meetings and
and so here's the thing. I'm looking at this from the business perspective too, as there's a lot of, you mentioned bringing somebody to an IEP meeting. That's what a lot of master IEP coaches do. They coach parents through the IEP process. Sometimes they go to meetings, sometimes they don't. So I have people ask me all the time, like, I don't know if I can be a master IEP coach because that's running a business and I'm a parent of a child with a disability. And I'm like, it's possible. It's hard, but it's possible. It's a great thing to have your own business as a family who is in the disability community, because as most difficult as it might be on those days, it also gives you the flexibility that you need. So I would love to hear just from you, like some encouragement. What would you tell a mom or a dad who's thinking about whether it's becoming a master IEP coach or developing a product because their family needs it and it doesn't exist on there? Just some encouragement and some advice for them.
I'm not going to diagnose anybody. I will say ADHD specifically and autism run in families. That's all I'm going to say. People with ADHD are amazing entrepreneurs. We have the ability to see 14 different things at one time and attack them in different ways, right? So having said that, is it scary? Heck yes, it's scary, but it's also really, really worth it. I might cry. It's fine. When you talk about flexibility, when you have things that go on in your life that you just need to say, I need to do one of these 14 problems at 9:00 tonight, you can do that. I mean, obviously, if it's a conversation with somebody who's already in bed, please don't do that. But, but you have that flexibility. You have the ability to kind of live your life as you need to live it. And having kids with special needs and issues is incredibly difficult. But if you have to, you just can. But when you're working a typical 9 to 5, sorry, I apologize. When you're working a typical 9 to 5, you can't. You just can't, because you will lose all of your benefits. You know what I mean? There's always something that will happen. I don't have that much to say, Michael.
I know.
So
That's all right. So for those of you who are listening to this, and you're
audio
not
friends,
watching,
yeah.
we've got some tears. We've got some
Yeah, sorry.
That's how much it means to us as parents, right? That's just how much it means to us.
Yeah.
It means to us that we get to say, you know, I need to drop everything right now. And because I had 14 problems and now I have 15, and one of them is a
Yeah.
fire. It's a fire at home, whatever
Right,
that looks
exactly.
like to our family. Yeah. And we need to take care of that. And that's one of the reasons that I figured out my business the way that I needed to figure it out. And I love to help other people figure it out, because especially because we work in the disability community, which means, you know, a master IP coach who's helping a family in the disability community, the family, we get each other. Like we get it.
Yeah.
Like you and Michael, you guys get each other of if there's something that you have got to prioritize over calm strips, as much as you love calm strips, we love our children, we love our family. And sometimes that has to come ahead of, you know, the problem that's on our desk.
Absolutely.
And I think, yeah, the other thing I would just add briefly is that, yeah, I think life in general is hard, and life in general is risky. And I think, I think if there's someone out there who's like wants to do something like being a master IEP coach, and they're worried that it's going to be too hard, I always like ask people to like self-reflect and be like, so if you're looking to do something more or different in your life, clearly that's coming from a place inside of you that's yearning for something different or something better. And I know, like, when I used to work retail with Lucy, like I was a manager, I had a pretty good job, you know, as stable as you could be. I could have stayed probably with that company till I was 65. But I was like, there's always this yearning to do something different or do something more. And like, even though this is incredibly hard, and there are days where it's 10 times harder than what I used to do, I don't necessarily feel that same way. And so I would say someone's out there who's like, you know, just take the first step. Like, you know, you're not going to go from where you are to where you want to be overnight. I was going to curse, but I won't. But like, shoot, like I'm still not really where I want to be yet. And I've been running this business for 3 years and working on it for 5. So it's not going to happen overnight. But like, if you have that yearning inside of you, like follow that. Because if you say, I'm not going to do it because it's too risky, or I'm not going to do it because it's too hard, you're going to look back 1, 2, 3, 5 years from now, and that yearning's still going to be there. And, you know, I think it's better to pursue it, even if you're not 100% successful, or even if you don't get to where you want to get to. I think you can be proud of yourself that you took steps in the direction that you wanted to go. So.
Yeah,
Absolutely. So let's talk about some steps to success here. As in, rumor has it you're an Urban Outfitters. You're like I'm
that's a
figuring
Lucy
it out.
thing. I don't let her take that shine. So
Oh, what do we got?
So yeah, so we've been doing retail, like wholesale for retail stores for a while. We were in over 100 boutique stores throughout the country and in Canada. Very exciting. And then we spoke with Urban Outfitters, and they were like, let's see what this is all about. And they love us. And I was stoked. So we were on their website for a few months since February. And then they reached out and they're like, all right, we want to go in store countrywide and in Canada. And I did a little dance, not gonna lie, a little bit. And so, yeah, I'm actually, one of my 14 projects this week is to update our store locator so that you can find out exactly where we are in all the stores that we're in, including.
I love that so much. I love that it's just out there, you know, that it's going to be put in a whole different way. It's not just a Google search. It's not just it's not just I need to go find a sensory tool. There's, you know what, I'm shopping for something new, and whoa, what is this? And it's going to jump out. And that is so very cool. So Urban Outfitters, you guys take a look for them. Go support them when you see them in the store, or if you're shopping online, put one in your cart, support that, because that's amazing. I know it's back to school time too. So we will definitely be putting the links and all the things, because I know you guys have all the great tools for back to school. I'm going to have to make sure that I get some box breathing and other kind of mindfulness kind of tools that you have, because that's it. I was convinced through this. I knew before this conversation, and now the conversation just reminded me that I need to get those. Yes, I need to get those. And I'm going to make sure I'm going to get a couple of extra of those and make sure that inside of our newsletter that we'll give some of those away to some of our readers and our listeners here at the podcast, and make sure we get that out to them too. All right. On that note, you guys have your 14 projects that you need to get back to. So I'm gonna let you guys go. And I just want to say thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking the risk, developing the product, sharing your story, evolving, and making sure that this is available to so many. And then, of course, giving that encouragement. So thank you both for being here today.
Awesome. Thank you,
Thank you for
Kat.
having us. Absolutely.